The Elden Ring closed network test finally gave us all a proper in-depth look at what Elden Ring is going to be like to play when it launches in February 2022. We were lucky enough to be given several days of early access to the beta before it went live to a wider player base, and so we were able to dive really deep into what the CNT had to offer, leveling up several of the preset player builds, grabbing some unique spells, weapons and abilities, and fighting some very exciting foes. This build is a big and very generous glimpse at what the full game will look like on release. And we have a ton of footage from our time with it, so let us show you some of the details that you shouldn't miss from the Elden Ring closed beta. There are so many optional bosses in the Elden Ring CNT, but it's interesting to note that many of these are found buried deep underground. Now, of course, that could be a practical solution to creating closed-off boss arenas in an otherwise open world. But that being said, many of these boss fights take place specifically at the roots of some very creepy trees, where what look like dead bodies are piled up, almost looking like they're trying to climb the roots. As any From Software fan will know, nothing this developer does is accidental. So could this whole thing tie into the lore of Elden Ring, and how the source of power for the lands between has been shattered? So think about it, the glowing trees seen everywhere above ground, touched with the golden glow of grace, are maybe pretty to look at above ground, but are tainted from below. It's just a theory and something to keep in mind as we get closer to launch. One thing we particularly loved about this beta was that it really rewarded exploration. Despite playing through the available content with 3 different character builds, we genuinely found something new in the world every time we played. We rode through this field of orange flowers many times before discovering a living golem-like creature hidden in the long-dead parts of its brethren. This entire sequence, by the way, really reminded us of the Guardians from Breath of the Wild. This is an amazing fight, and it's so easy to miss.
Oi! You there!
There was another secret that we only discovered because we heard someone calling out to us while riding Torrent through some bushes. Turns out one of those was a demi-human called Bach, who'd been turned into a tree by someone and was pushed out of the cave they once shared with their kin. Bach promises to scrounge you a better reward from that cave, and you can go there yourself and clear it out of more aggressive demi-humans. Once you do this and then check the map, you can see that Bach's name actually shows up in the cave, suggesting you can find him there. But we searched high and low and could not find a way to further that questline. It's probably likely that it's been removed to save the mystery for the full release. There's another mysterious encounter we found that really piqued our curiosity. Close by where you fight the golem, there's a circular stone indent in the mountainside called Forlorn Hound Evergel that glows blue in the centre. It's also surrounded and watched closely by these weird caterpillar bowling ball type creatures. Touching the blue glyph in the centre turns the sky dark and transports you to the Evergel, what looks like an alternate version of that same location. Soon you'll spot another blue glow and Bloodhound Knight Darrowil will leap at you to attack. This boss is super aggressive, but surprisingly squishy, and apparently weak to magic damage. But it wasn't so much the boss that interested us than the nature of how we came to challenge them. What will these instances mean in the full game? What's the story behind the Evergel and these beings supposedly trapped there? I don't know about you, but we can't wait to find out. Another detail that made us very excited about the possibilities of the main game was the realization that some foes only appeared in certain areas at night. This spooky mounted enemy only patrols this bridge after dark. They aren't too hard to beat, but make sure you focus your attention on them and not their horse, or whatever that thing is underneath that cloak, as the figure will just summon another steed immediately should the current one die. Though we were kind of disappointed this enemy didn't drop any exciting loot, it's interesting to think what other discoveries and secrets from Software will tie into the day-night cycle of the game. I mean, time of day didn't really make much of a difference to our adventures in the beta otherwise, but come on, you can bet it will have some significance in the final game. Arguably the shining star of the Elden Ring CNT show, though, is this challenging boss right here. Agile is a manageable battle once you get to grips with how they move. For melee builds, it's all about getting in and out safely, landing a few strikes, and backing off. Pay close attention to Agile's tail, as it's the best indicator of what the dragon is going to do next. Its main attacks on the ground are bites, swipes, and stomps, which are honestly all easy enough to avoid on horseback if you keep a close eye and back off when necessary. It can also breathe fire in a wide arc, but providing you get a good head start, you should be able to outrun this with Torrent. The real danger is when Agile launches into the air. The dragon may just fly into a different area of the lake, they may fly upwards before crashing down to earth, or there's a chance it breathes fire and launches itself backwards, effectively covering the area in front of it with deadly flames. Believe me, you want to be nowhere near it when that happens. So if you see the dragon flying upwards, your best bet is to start moving away from it so as to avoid the worst of its attacks. Obviously, this whole fight is going to be tougher for melee builds because you have to get in there to attack, so if you're a melee build, you're best placed to target Agile's ankles, hacking away while making sure to stay out of the way of its mouth and tail. Magic users should be able to hang back and strike from afar, but be aware that it seems you can only attack with right-hand weapons on horseback, so ensure you have everything equipped where it needs to be before you start the battle. Here's some tips we find worked for us. The Glintsword Arch Ashes of War ability is great for dealing a lot of damage in a short amount of time, which has a greater chance of staggering Agile and leaving them open to a big old stab in the eye. When this stagger happens, you need to quickly dismount to actually perform the attack, so be ready for that. With melee fighters, remember that you can swing your weapon either side of your mount. You just need to attack with L1 instead of R1 to swing on your left-hand side. Our final tip for defeating Agile involves a little bit of a diversion. Mount up on Torrent and head to this forested area on your map. The closest site of grace is the one by the Scavenger's Shack. This is a neat area to explore, full of glowing blue jellyfish that actually don't attack you at first. You're looking for a spot with red jellyfish though, who will attack on sight, but close by them you'll find an item to pick up, the Spirit Jellyfish Ashes. This summon is surprisingly hardy, but the real reason you'll want it by your side in more difficult battles is its attacks have a chance to inflict a poison status on enemies, which drain their health over time. Now obviously, with bosses like Agile, this can be a real help when trying to bring them down. So, good luck! Though From could have easily made it the endpoint of the beta, players can keep exploring parts of Stormville Castle once they defeat Margit, and there are multiple different paths you can take. Speaking to this NPC, they advise using the side entrance, but you can instead ask them to open the main gate. But actually, you don't really have to choose. You can just double back from the side path and ask them to open the main gate later if you want. This NPC also sells some unique items, so it's worth coming back and chatting to them later anyway. The side path leads towards some eagles with knives for legs, it's incredibly normal, guarding a thunderbolt Ashes of War, and beyond that, a long staircase leading into the castle. Behind a door in there, up several staircases, is a nightmarish enemy that's basically a sword-wielding spider made up of lots of different bodies and limbs crushed together. This aesthetic seems to be a theme of this castle, actually. Its more important inhabitants seem to sprout lots of different extra body parts, judging by this enemy, Margit, and the fearsome ruler of Stormville Castle, Godric the Golden. Anyway, defeating this monstrosity, and side note, you can roll out the door and cheese it from the corridor if you prefer, will get you a rusty key that opens a locked door on a lower floor. But sadly, all you'll find in the room beyond is a ladder that, when examined, tells you you're gonna have to wait for the full release to progress further. Oh man, tough luck. Ignoring the advice from the NPC at the gatehouse and opening the main gate will give you a different path to follow, one that really isn't the easiest to travel. There is a site of grace here if you can roll your way up and to the left of the gate without dying, which is easier said than done. Clearing this courtyard isn't impossible, but it does take a little patience. And once all the guards are taken care of, there's one tough, unique enemy hiding in the far corner. This frankly gorgeous foe, a chained lion with an incredible mane of hair and swords on top of its claws, again is no pushover, but once you take care of them, you can explore this space. Perhaps in the main game there'll be more to it, but for now, it's just a dead end. Continuing through the courtyard to the other side is a death wish. I'm not convinced players are actually supposed to survive this onslaught of exploding bolts, in the beta at least. The best I was able to do was climb the rock formation and kill the two enemies at the top. But going any further invites a storm of bolts from invisible foes, and I'm fairly sure, should you actually reach the gate at the top of the stairs, you'll find it locked. But yeah, we'll just have to wait for the full release find out. Seriously, is it February yet? So these were our favourite details in the Elden Ring CNT. Do you have any of your own to add? You can check out our other Elden Ring videos, which should be on your screen now. Or you can subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on any of our new Elden Ring content, which will be coming to you very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye!